Welcome to This Week in Agriculture, a program through which we provide highlights of Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa as he pursues government's dream of a diversified, sustainable and vibrant agriculture sector. This past week can best be described as hectic. From engagements with church groups interested in engaging in agricultural projects to high-level meeting with President of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly, His Excellency Abdullah Shahid, and his delegation on Friday at the Ministry of Agriculture's main boardroom on Regent Street in the capital. There was also some bad news this past week. We learned of the passing of former CEO of the National Agricultural Research and Extension Station, Dr. Udo Homnot, a stalwart of the agriculture sector and a friend to all of us who have had the pleasure of working with him over the past years. On behalf of Minister Mustafa and all of us at the Ministry of Agriculture, I extend sincere sympathies to the relatives and friends of the late Dr. Udo Homnot. I am Christopher Holder. We will be back after these messages.
Farmers and the members of the public in general are being advised that tampering with drainage and irrigation structures in any way is prohibited under the Drainage and Irrigation Act. So too are practices that result in damage to access dams, such as using an inadequate length of tube to irrigate farmlands, resulting in erosion of the earthen dams. Also contrary to the Drainage and Irrigation Act is the practice of erecting structures or planting on government reserves. This will not be condoned. These reserves are to be clear at all times to provide access for the excavation of the channels. Livestock farmers should also be aware that they are liable for any damages caused by their cattle or swine to dams or reserves alongside D&I channels, as is the case when the animals cross these channels. Individuals wishing to erect bridges across D&I structures should first contact the NDIA before doing so. Those found guilty under the Act are liable to fines and imprisonment for up to 3 months. A message from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
Here's an important notice. Do you know that it is illegal to import, store, distribute, sell, and purchase antibiotics without a license or prescription, as the case may be? According to the Antibiotic Act of 1952, owners of livestock and other animals are not permitted to purchase and use antibiotics unless prescribed by a veterinarian. It should be noted that the misuse of antibiotics could result in the development of resistance to the very antibiotic, which in turn will pose health risks to the animal and to humans. The GLDA advises that farmers should not administer antibiotics to animals unless prescribed by a veterinarian. Non-compliance with this act will result in fines and imprisonment. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
The Ministry of Agriculture is warning members of the public that it is illegal to dump garbage of any kind near to or into drainage and irrigation waterways across the country. The NDIA, the agency tasked with the maintenance of drainage and irrigation in Guyana, has noted that there is an alarming increase in the incidence of garbage getting into D&I waterways and causing blockages in the first instance. But worse than that, the garbage that includes clothing, rotting carcasses, pieces of wood and metal gets past protective grills of the critical mobile and fixed pumps, resulting in damage to the pumps, which have to be taken out of service for repairs, placing communities at risk, especially during the rainy season. The Ministry of Agriculture notes that when this happens, millions have to be spent on repairs to the pumps and on clearing the canals of debris thrown there by irresponsible citizens. The ministry warns that rangers of the NDIA will be on the lookout for those engaging in this illegal practice. Persons caught will be made to face the full force of the law. A message from the NDIA, Ministry of Agriculture.
In light of recent flooding and the lodging of floodwaters in some communities, the Ministry of Agriculture through the GLDA is warning of the dangers lurking in stagnant floodwaters. Leptospirosis is caused by bacteria that results in severe damage to the liver, kidneys, and other organs of both animals and humans. One risk factor includes walking or playing in floodwaters, especially floodwaters that have become stagnant. Leptospirosis is transmitted through the urine of infected rodents, livestock, and pets. The leptospira bacteria bacteria can enter the body of animals and humans through drinking, through cuts in the skin, or through mucous membranes in the eyes, nose, and mouth. Symptoms of leptospirosis in both animals and humans include fever, jaundice, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, loss of appetite, weakness, stiffness, and severe muscle pain. In light of the current rainy season and widespread flooding, livestock and pet owners are advised to implement good agricultural practices and, where possible, have your animals vaccinated against this disease immediately. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. International interest in Guyana is at a fever pitch, and it is not only about our abundance of oil, it is also about agriculture, about tapping into Guyana's potential as a food source in a world staring at an imminent shortage of food. Already Trinidad, Barbados, Antigua, and Barbuda are already working with Guyana in its agriculture sector to ensure food and nutrition security not only in their respective countries, but also the region as a whole. We begin our review with the highlights of Minister Mustafa's engagements this past week, the visit to the Ministry of Agriculture by the President of the 76th Session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, His Excellency Abdullah Shahid, and delegation. The UN official was in Guyana for a whirlwind 2-day visit that saw engagements with President Dr. Irfaan Ali for discussions on a range of areas for collaboration. During a meeting with Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, the UN General Assembly President was given a detailed report on government's efforts in promoting and sustaining regional food security, as well as the advances made in developing a robust agriculture sector locally. Mr. Shahid, in his remarks, said that he was impressed with the leadership of His Excellency President Dr. Irfaan Ali and assured of the UN's continued support to Guyana's development, especially in the area of agriculture. Also present at the high-level meeting between Minister Mustafa and the UN General Assembly President were Guyana's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ms. Caroline Rodrigues Burkett, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Ms. Delma Ned, Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Madan Lal Ramraj, Resident Coordinator Yesim Urak, and heads of departments of the various agencies under the umbrella of the Ministry of Agriculture. Interest in Guyana's agriculture sector continues to soar, and more individuals, groups, and organizations are signaling their interest in getting engaged with the business of agriculture. The latest organization to signal this interest is the Plaisance Seventh-day Adventist Church, members of which have formed themselves into a farmers group and plan to begin the cultivation of crops as part of the church's agriculture program. Members of the church's leadership had visited Minister Mustafa at his office, seeking the ministry's guidance in developing a section of the church compound for agriculture purposes. Following up on a commitment he made to the organization, Minister Mustafa and team from the ministry visited the church for a first-hand assessment of what was needed to get the venture underway. During his engagement with the group, Minister Mustafa expressed elation at the interest being demonstrated in the agriculture sector, noting that when religious and other private and public organizations get involved in agricultural practices, Guyana will be even better placed in ensuring regional food security.
I want to commend you because you are showing an initiative which is new to many organizations around this country. Because when we talk about agriculture, many persons try to relate it to just the farmers in the field and the farming communities. But if all the organizations in our country emulate what you are trying to do, then I think Guyana can be food secure. Mm-hmm. Guyana can be food secure. Mm-hmm. So in that light, I want to commend the church here at Plaisance, and I hope that we can have other organizations to follow suit. And this can be a beginning of new things to happen in our country.
Following that meeting last Sunday, a team of technical officers of the Ministry of Agriculture visited the compound to assess what was needed to get the project off the ground, and by Friday, the group received the quantity of agriculture supplies from the ministry during a simple presentation in the ministry compound.
We are here to deliver on a commitment that we have made when we met with the Seventh-day Adventists in Plaisance. As a matter of fact, they have reached out to us and they want to get involved into agriculture. And when we met with them last Sunday, I have commended the effort of this group, and I hope that other groups in the country can follow suit. Because as you know now, these are exciting times in the agriculture sector, where our agriculture sector is moving apace so that we can have food security and also lead the region in its food security and food agenda program. So this morning we have made some commitment to hand over some tools and equipment to the Seventh-day Adventists, and at the same time also we'll help them to develop their farm and start their crop production. So I hope that other groups can follow. So on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, the government of Guyana, His Excellency the President, I want to take this opportunity in handing over these equipment to the church. I hope that this here will help to start the process that they wanted to start and wanted to get involved into the agriculture sector. So, Pastor and group, I hope that this will be, these equipment here will be helping the church to start the program that we wanted to start, so that other groups also can follow up. And I want to commit it that we can work along with you, because you have indicated to us that you have other churches on the East Coast that we can work with.
The Agriculture Minister has committed the resources of the various agencies of his ministry in supporting the efforts of the group in their venture into the wealth-generating business of agriculture. As part of his efforts at keeping his fingers on the pulse of the agriculture sector, the Agriculture Minister, along with officials from his ministry, visited the Iflux Sugar Estate on the west coast of Demerara during the week. During the visit, Minister Mustafa was given a tour of the factory and a first-hand look at its operations and the process of making sugar. The minister was accompanied on the visit by the Ministry of Agriculture's Director General, Mr. Madanlal Ramraj, Permanent Secretary Ms. Delma Ned, Gaisuko CEO Sesnarayan Singh, and other senior Gaisuko officials. Also happening this past week, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa met with a group of investors from India to discuss areas of collaboration with the government of Guyana, specifically in the agriculture sector. The team comprised Indian High Commissioner to Guyana, His Excellency Dr. K.J. Srinivasa, and representatives from Engineers India Limited, EIL. During the meeting, the officials discussed supply challenges with fertilizer and the possibility of establishing a fertilizer plant in Guyana. Engineers India Limited is a company based in New Delhi, India, that is involved in the production and development of hydrocarbons, fertilizers, infrastructure, etc. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa on Thursday participated virtually in the Africa Green Revolution Forum, during which he urged that for countries to forge ahead in the agri-food system's transformation, cooperation is paramount and large-scale investment is necessary.
Through this video, I fully support this summit, which highlights South-South cooperation, which is very important for all of us. Guyana and the Caribbean region are willing and ready to work with our brothers and sisters in Africa through the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture and the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. To forge ahead in the transformation of the agri-food system, cooperation is paramount and large-scale investment is necessary. A key message that was articulated by ICA following the 2021 UN Food Summit is that achieving a more balanced and efficient food system will require an investment plan for wide-scale development of production, transportation and logistics, technology and infrastructure. For these investments to be effective, countries must design and execute medium-term strategic plans that facilitate the creation of public-private partnerships. States should invest in basic agriculture infrastructure and public goods into which private actors may then channel their investments. These efforts will call for significant support from international cooperation and financing. The Global South must recognize the common challenges faced and collectively seek solutions for the benefit of all. South-South cooperation offers an opportunity for the transfer of policy experiences and technologies necessary for boosting agriculture productivity in developing countries. It also opens new investment and market opportunities and a more level playing field that currently exists for many agricultural producers. The establishment of formal alliances between countries in the global south is a useful avenue to stimulate agro-industries. In turn, industrialization along food value chains will help to stimulate value addition, increase regional trade, and strengthen resilience. Further, South-South regional countries have an opportunity to work together on investment interventions that foster improved climate adaptation and mitigation for a regional approach to resilient, sustainable, and increased productivity. Collectively, our governments, private sector, and international organizations must work together on the path for enhanced South-South cooperation that will be beneficial to all and take us forward in transforming our agri-food system.
The AGRF is the world's premier forum for African agriculture, bringing together stakeholders in the agriculture landscape to take practical actions and share lessons that will move African agriculture forward. AGRF is currently hosting its 12th annual summit under the theme Grow, Nourish, Reward, Bold Actions for Resilient Food Systems in Kigali, Rwanda. The regional administration of Region 2 is now better positioned to effect the vital maintenance and upgrade of dams in the rice cultivation areas of the region. This is now possible with the commissioning this past week of a $24 million grader, which will now be added to the region's fleet. Speaking of the commissioning exercise at the National Drainage and Irrigation Office at Anna Regina, Minister Mustapha noted that since taking the reins of government, a major effort has been made to provide the funds necessary to develop critical infrastructure in the agriculture sector. He stressed that government remains committed to living up to its social contract with the citizens of this country, one entered into through the many manifesto promises made in the run-up to the 2020 general elections and reaffirmed over the last 2 years.
We are here today to deliver on a commitment that we have made, and you would have known over the last 2 years and when we were in government prior to 2015, that when we make commitments and promises, we try our utmost to deliver on those commitments. Because these commitments, these promises that we are making, it becomes a social contract between us and the people of our country. And when as a government, when we make these commitments, people plan their daily life, people plan their activities around these commitments and promises. For example, if we are saying that this year we will open up 10,000 acres of land on the Essequibo coast, persons who would have owned land in those areas or who have intention of going into agriculture would plan themselves to ensure that they go and start agriculture in too, because that's the commitment that was made by the government. Likewise, we are here today, we have made a commitment that we will procure a grader for the region, and the grader will help to develop the infrastructure of the region. Your livelihood and your life have been planned around it, because you heard the comrade just said, Comrade Baksh, talk about dams. So dams are one of the most burning issues now. Farmers, that's problem farmers are faced with on the Essequibo coast. We recognize that. And over the last 2 years, we have expended a lot or a large budgetary allocation in Region 2. As a matter of fact, as I am speaking here today, I was looking at the figure for the last 2 years, and it's over $3 billion we have expended right here on the Essequibo coast. And that shows government commitment towards the development of Region 2, because we recognize the importance of this region. This region is an agriculture-based region. And for us to invest in this region, we have to develop the infrastructure. We have to create the necessary infrastructure for you, the farmers, to produce. And if we, as a country, if we want food security, then regions like Region 2, we will have to develop. Although today we are an island gas producing country, and we expect more of our revenue to come from that sector, to come from the island gas sector, but that will be short term. We have to develop our agriculture sector. For me, not because I'm Minister of Agriculture, I will be prejudiced to this sector, but all of us who are here, and the entire population in the country, the most important, or one of the most important sector in this country, is the agriculture sector.
According to Minister Mustafa, government, through its investment in the sector, is moving to consolidate existing agriculture in its many forms, but at the same time expand and diversify in order to take advantage of the markets opening up in the region.
What we have, the traditional crops that we have, we want to consolidate and increase production in those areas. For example, fresh fruits and vegetables. When you look at the half-year report that came out from the Ministry of Finance, you would see that the fresh fruits and vegetables have increased tremendously over the last year or over the last 6 months. Because what we have been doing in the Ministry of Agriculture, we have been working with the farmers. Because around the Caribbean today, there are demands for these produce. People want Guyana fruits. They want Guyana vegetables. Gone are the days when countries like Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados were saying that they would not want to trade with Guyana. Today, they are demanding it. I was in Trinidad 2 weeks ago, and all the barriers that used to affect our food and our produce into Trinidad, we had a bilateral with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And he said, he made it very clear, that all the non-tariff barriers must be removed so that Guyana produce can go freely into Trinidad and Tobago. We have already started to export our fruits and vegetables to Barbados. I had a meeting with the private sector. Some of the comrades who are here went with me. The private sector in Barbados, they said that they want to import into Barbados all the produce, the fresh produce from Guyana, because they don't want to import from North America, Latin America and Central America. They want Guyana produce. So you are seeing now that the stigma that used to be attached to Guyana is being removed. That came about because of the proactiveness of our president. And all of us should recognize the leadership that we are getting in this country. Because, comrade, I have made this point at a number of places. When I became Minister of Agriculture, Guyana position in CARICOM has ceded to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they were speaking on agriculture. They were leading the agriculture agenda. Today, we have taken back that. At the first meeting at CARICOM that our president attended, he has rescued back that position, and Guyana is leading. Guyana is leading the CARICOM agenda today. And you heard the regional vice chairman would have said, our president is the leader in agriculture. And Guyana is chairing the ministerial task force. So much so that almost the entire CARICOM, they are looking towards Guyana for that leadership. If we have to reduce the food import bill by 25% in 2025, in another 3 years from now, then Guyana has to play that leading role. Guyana has a lot of abundance of fresh water. Guyana have large arable land space. And now we are having the investment coming to Guyana to invest. And you, the farmers, you, the productive sector, will be benefit from those investments coming into our country. Only today I have had discussion with some investors who want to set up a new mill. When new mill set up, you have more competition. Your paddy will sell more expensive to the mill because you have more demands for it. That is why, as Minister of Agriculture, I want us to increase production. Over the last 2 years, we have seen what climate change is real. Now it's September. These months that normally be the driest month in the year, in August, July, August, September. To date, we are having severe heavy rainfall because of climate change. So you don't have seasonal rainfall anymore. You have rainfall every time, so we have to prepare. We have to prepare for climate change.
The Agriculture Minister challenged rice farmers of the region to put their shoulders to the wheel in contributing to a doubling of rice production by the year 2025. Finally, on This Week in Agriculture, the Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa, along with the management and staff of the Ministry of Agriculture and its agencies, extend heartfelt condolences to the relatives and friends of the late Dr. Udo Homnot. Dr. Homnot served as the Chief Executive Officer of the National Agriculture Research and Extension Institute for over 2 decades. His contribution to the sector remains invaluable and will never be forgotten. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
The Ministry of Agriculture is warning members of the public that it is illegal to dump garbage of any kind near to or into drainage and irrigation waterways across the country. The NDIA, the agency tasked with the maintenance of drainage and irrigation in Guyana, has noted that there is an alarming increase in the incidence of garbage getting into DNI waterways and causing blockages in the first instance. But worse than that, the garbage that includes clothing, rotting carcasses, pieces of wood and metal gets past protective grills of the critical mobile and fixed pumps, resulting in damage to the pumps, which have to be taken out of service for repairs, placing communities at risk, especially during the rainy season. The Ministry of Agriculture notes that when this happens, millions have to be spent on repairs to the pumps and on clearing the canals of debris thrown there by irresponsible citizens. The ministry warns that rangers of the NDIA will be on the lookout for those engaging in this illegal practice. Persons caught will be made to face the full force of the law. A message from the NDIA Ministry of Agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture is warning members of the public that it is illegal to dump garbage of any kind near to or into drainage and irrigation waterways across the country. The NDIA, the agency tasked with the maintenance of drainage and irrigation in Guyana, has noted that there is an alarming increase in the incidence of garbage getting into DNI waterways and causing blockages in the first instance. But worse than that, the garbage that includes clothing, rotting carcasses, pieces of wood and metal gets past protective grills of the critical mobile and fixed pumps, resulting in damage to the pumps, which have to be taken out of service for repairs, placing communities at risk, especially during the rainy season. The Ministry of Agriculture notes that when this happens, millions have to be spent on repairs to the pumps and on clearing the canals of debris thrown there by irresponsible citizens. The ministry warns that rangers of the NDIA will be on the lookout for those engaging in this illegal practice. Persons caught will be made to face the full force of the law. A message from the NDIA Ministry of Agriculture. Here's an important notice. Do you know that it is illegal to import, store, distribute, sell, and purchase antibiotics without a license or prescription, as the case may be? According to the Antibiotic Act of 1952, owners of livestock and other animals are not permitted to purchase and use antibiotics unless prescribed by a veterinarian. It should be noted that the misuse of antibiotics could result in the development of resistance to the very antibiotic, which in turn will pose health risks to the animal and to humans. The GLDA advises that farmers should not administer antibiotics to animals unless prescribed by a veterinarian. Non-compliance with this act will result in fines and imprisonment. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
This has been another edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. We certainly hope you have enjoyed your weekend and that you're all set for the challenges of this brand new week. This Week in Agriculture is produced for television by Matrix Video Productions and Advertising based in East Berbice. I am your producer and host, Christopher Holder. Urging that you have a productive but enjoyable week ahead. Just remember to at all times be good to yourselves and to each other. Good night.